communication rule. Always think about context. It's a con when there's too much text. If you've seen me speak before, you've likely heard this before, but it begs repeating. Besides the fact that visual communication is meant to be a low-text medium, today's audiences simply aren't taking the time to read like they used to. You don't want to risk producing an end product that turns off your audience from the start. So it's important to pressure test your end product, and Illustrator makes it easy to do that. When setting up your design, be sure to create a layer that will house only your text. As you go about your work, you can then easily toggle that layer on and off to see if the visuals are truly telling the story.
That's a good idea.
In this example, it's clear that there are plenty of missed opportunities for data visualization, which is something that we'll cover in detail very shortly here. Of course, there is a point where this rule can be broken. Sometimes, when visualizing qualitative information, text can act as labels or callouts to drive further meaning. Here's a segment from one of the most popular infographics we've ever designed at Killer. As you can see, there's a great deal of text surrounding these illustrations to add humor and drive the point home. Still though, if this text were turned off, the illustrations are able to stand on their own and truly show the difference between the two subjects. Essential visual communication rule: use proper data viz throughout. There's already enough mistrust for media in the world today, and you definitely don't want your data visualizations to fuel that fire. To exemplify this, here are two examples of data viz gone way wrong. In the example on our left, you'll see that simply overlaying an area graph on top of the map of America changes the data entirely. When I look at this, I assume that Maine is the most diverse state in America, rather than seeing the changing demographics over time that this chart is attempting to show. In the same vein, this graph on the right leads you to believe that the 2005 Stand Your Ground law led to a decline in deaths due to gun violence, rather than the increase that actually took place. This is because the y-axis is not following the traditional practice of y to the sky, which essentially means starting at a lesser number and moving upwards. Instead, the y-axis is flipped, thus taking advantage of our universal vernacular for charts and graphs. While I could spend hours talking you through every possible way to visualize data correctly in Adobe Illustrator, time will only allow for a few examples. So let's take a minute to dive in, and I'll show you the 3 most common data viz mistakes and how to properly visualize that data in Illustrator as I go through. As I go through this, watch my screen. It may be important to note that I'm using a Mac and not a PC.